Kia ora, welcome to Tuesday night restorative, or whenever you're practicing this restorative class. We're going to start opening through the front of the body, through the chest. So having something cylindrical, like a bolster or a rolled up blanket, will be really useful here, as well as an extra bit of support for the back of the head. So you can use a block. I'm going to be using quite a thick cushion. And so we're going to get pretty much straight into it. I'm going to be using my blanket. I feel like maybe the bolster might be a bit too deep of a stretch. I might actually use the bolster to support my legs. And then the cushion to support the head. You can use a block or anything else that you have handy, even another folded up blanket or towel. So supports come horizontal along the mat, wherever you're stationed. And bringing yourself down so that whatever you're using, whether it be a towel, a blanket, or a bolster, sits right across the bottom of the shoulder blades, so that your arms can come over on top, and resting the backs of the arms, backs of the hands on the floor. And some of these positions need a little bit of time for finessing, so to settle in, to make adjustments so that you're comfortable. And often it's just time and using your breath for the settling process to happen. So you can adjust as much as you need to, support your body as best as you can, and then just rest and allow time to do the rest. Of course, if you are uncomfortable at any stage, please feel free to come out of the position or change the position so that you're able to be comfortable. And once you've got yourself set up and settled in, I just invite you to bring your attention to the sensations of contact between your body and the floor. So be feeling through the heels, areas at the backs of the legs. So maybe it's the calf muscles in contact with the floor, the hamstrings, the buttocks, the backs of the arms, and if your head's resting on the floor, then the back of the head. Moving your attention from the heels all the way up through the back of the body to the back of the head, just feeling the places where your body is touching the floor. Be aware of all of those points of contact and just see if you can allow yourself to get a little heavier into those points. So you're actively releasing those points into the floor. And then you can become aware of the parts of the body that are not in contact with the floor. So the places where there's space between your body and the floor. So maybe the space at the back of the neck, there's a little curvature of the cervical spine there. Maybe through the lumbar spine, the lower back, there's another curve there that can lift the lower back up off the floor, particularly when we're actively curving through the chest, opening through the chest. And there might be additional points for you where you can feel that your body is not in contact with the floor. It might be the backs of the knees, the ankles. Just become aware of the space between your body and the floor. And now just noticing the support, so whatever props you're using, the cushions, blankets, whatever you have, feeling the contact with those objects. and becoming aware of the support that they bring into the position that you're in, the part of the body that they're holding up, and the effects that that's having on your experience. So, for example, the blanket or cushion at the back of the shoulder blades is lifting this part of the back up off the floor and creating quite a deep stretch. There's some space happening through the front of the body because the chest is lifted, the shoulders drop down, and the lower back lifts off the floor just a little. There's a cushion at the back of the head. This is allowing the position of the head and neck to be more neutral than if you were doing this position without that support. The back of the neck is nice and long here, so it's an extension. If you didn't have that cushion, the chin would be lifting up and the back top of the head would be coming to the floor. There'd be a lot of space and curving at the back of the neck. We're straightening that out, nestling the chin in. And now just become aware of your breath, the movement of breath through the body, through this position. Noticing how the inhalation feels in relation to the stretch and the position that you're holding, or that's being held by the body. Aware of any shifts as you breathe in. Full awareness of the in-breath. So without straining or forcing the in-breath, you're just bringing your attention to it and just noticing, becoming more mindful of the in-breath. And now bring the attention to the out-breath, exhalation. Maybe the body naturally softens with each out-breath. You can release a little more into the support and into, I'm going to be using my blanket. I feel like maybe the bolster might be a bit too deep of a stretch. I might actually use the bolster to support my legs. And then the cushion to support the head. You can use a block or anything else that you have handy, even another folded up blanket or towel. So supports come horizontal along the mat, wherever you're stationed. And bringing yourself down so that whatever you're using, whether it be a towel, a blanket, or a bolster, sits right across the bottom of the shoulder blades so that your arms can come over on top and resting the backs of the arms, backs of the hands on the floor. And some of these positions need a little bit of time for finessing, so to settle in, to make adjustments so that you're comfortable. And often it's just time and using your breath for the settling process to happen. So you can adjust as much as you need to, support your body as best as you can, And then just rest and allow time to do the rest. Of course, if you are uncomfortable at any stage, please feel free to come out of the position or change the position so that you're able to be comfortable. And once you've got yourself set up and settled in, I just invite you to bring your attention to the sensations of contact between your body and the floor. So be feeling through the heels, areas at the backs of the legs. So maybe it's the calf muscles in contact with the floor, the hamstrings, the buttocks, the backs of the arms, and if your head's resting on the floor, then the back of the head. So moving your attention from the heels all the way up through the back of the body to the back of the head, just feeling the places where your body is touching the floor. Be aware of all of those points of contact and just see if you can allow yourself to get a little heavier into those points. So you're actively releasing those points into the floor. And then you can become aware of the parts of the body that are not in contact with the floor. So the places where there's space between your body and the floor. So maybe the space at the back of the neck, there's a little curvature of the cervical spine there. Maybe through the lumbar spine, the lower back, there's another curve there that can lift the lower back up off the floor, particularly when we're actively curving through the chest, opening through the chest. And there might be additional points for you where you can feel that your body is not in contact with the floor. It might be the backs of the knees, the ankles. Just become aware of the space between your body and the floor. And now just noticing the support, so whatever props you're using, the cushions, blankets, whatever you have, feeling the contact with those objects and becoming aware of the support that they bring into the position that you're in, the part of the body that they're holding up, and the effects that that's having on your experience. So, for example, the blanket or cushion at the back of the shoulder blades is lifting this part of the back up off the floor and creating quite a deep stretch. There's some space happening through the front of the body. Because the chest is lifted, the shoulders drop down, and the lower back lifts off the floor just a little. And there's a cushion at the back of the head. This is allowing the position of the head and neck to be more neutral than if you were doing this position without that support. The back of the neck is nice and long here, so it's an extension. If you didn't have that cushion, the chin would be lifting up and the back top of the head would be coming to the floor. There'd be a lot of space and curving at the back of the neck. We're straightening that out. Nestling the chin in. And now just become aware of your breath and the movement of breath through the body and through this position. Noticing how the inhalation feels in relation to the stretch and the position that you're holding, or that's being held by the body. Aware of any shifts as you breathe in. Full awareness of the in-breath. So without straining or forcing the in-breath, you're just bringing your attention to it and just noticing, becoming more mindful of the in-breath. And now bring the attention to the out-breath, exhalation. Maybe the body naturally softens with each out-breath. And you can release a little more into the support and into the floor. So give yourself 10 more breaths in this position. Keeping your awareness on the breath and on the sensations that you're experiencing within your body. And these become the objects for our mind to hold whenever we notice that we've started thinking about things from the past, or we're moving into thoughts of the future. We can anchor ourselves and pick up these points of awareness, the breath and sensation. So these become anchors to the present moment. Last few breaths. We want to make the transition out of this position as comfortable as we can. So what I would recommend is first just rolling over onto your side and using a hand to press down and lift the torso up, just so you can move whatever you had behind the shoulder blades across and off the mat. And then bring yourself down onto your back. You can hug the knees in here if that feels good for you, or you can bring the soles of your feet to the floor. We just want to bring the back nice and flat on the floor. So allowing the spine to neutralize. Draw the chin in slightly. If you've decided to hug the knees in, you might take a little rock from side to side. Find a bit of stillness for a moment. And just be really aware of your body and any effects from that last stretch that we just did. Noticing how you feel now, having moved through that. Becoming quiet enough to notice these more subtle experiences within the body and within the mind. And then again, rolling to one side and slowly pressing yourself up into a seated position. So So quite normal and natural to feel a little bit stiff or achy through the back. And we're going to work that out a little bit here with a seated cat-cow. So find a cross-legged position, and if you'd like, you can place a cushion or a folded blanket underneath your buttocks. That can just make the sitting position a little more comfortable. And with the hands on the knees, we're going to bring the chin down to the chest and separate the shoulder blades by pulling the shoulders forward, just to whatever degree feels good. We don't want to overdo it. And then as you take your next breath in, make it a little bit deeper, and start to draw the shoulders back, lift the chest up, lift your gaze toward the ceiling. So now you're working on squeezing the shoulder blades together behind you, lifting the chin high, sticking the belly out, and then coming back to that closed position, chin to the chest, spreading between the shoulder blades, and tilting the pelvis under, pulling the belly in. So take a few more of those at your own pace. Opening through the front and then opening through the back alternately. You can hold any part of the stretch for an extra few breaths if you'd like. So don't feel like you need to flow with the breath. You can make any variations of this movement that you'd like as well. Take a final round and bring yourself back to a seated position. And from here, we're going to counter stretch a little bit and come into a supported butterfly pose. So I'm going to use my bolster for this one out in front, but you can use a rolled up blanket or a cushion. Something else that you can do as well is roll a towel or a blanket around a cushion, and that will create this kind of cylindrical supported prop. So for this supported child's pose, we're going to take the soles of the feet together and allow the knees to drop out to the sides. And the prop, whatever you're using, be it a blanket or a bolster or a cushion, will come underneath the knees. So it's going to be there to support the knees. Additionally, you can have another cushion placed on top of the feet, maybe a few cushions taken on top of the feet to support the head as you fold forward. And then just take a breath in, get a bit of length up through your spine. As you exhale, tilt forward, hinge forward from your hips or your lower back. Finding a forward fold, you can use your hands, you can stack them on top of each other or stack the forearms to support the head. And if you're feeling quite tight through your hips or your lower back and this forward fold isn't as deep as you think it could be or should be, just remember that there's no shoulds in this yoga practice. You're really just listening to your body. So there's plenty of ways that you can modify and support your body in this. You can even place a blanket between your hips and your belly and fold forward over that. Release the weight of your head down. And it's not really important that we feel a really deep stretching sensation here, or doesn't have to feel straight away as if we're achieving something. It's the act of supporting the body, being still, and just resting in this quiet space that's really nourishing for the body, for the nervous system. And over time, as the muscles of the body start to relax, we can create more space in whatever position we're holding. So this is giving us an opportunity to create space through the back, muscles of the back, as well as the spine itself, the lower back and the hips, and maybe even the groin and inner thighs. So the effects of this are quite subtle physically, but mentally, this time spent in stillness and in quiet is a really profound effect.
It can take some practice and some time to become comfortable with the stillness and with the quiet, and it's totally normal. Just find a technique that works for you, whether that's focusing on your breathing, counting your breathing, or maybe repeating a mantra mentally to keep your mind present. And every so often, just scan your attention through your body and just notice if you're holding anywhere that you don't need to be holding. Making sure that the shoulders are relaxing, the hips are relaxing and not resisting or tensing against this position. And quite often we can hold tension in the face, around the eyes, and in the area of the jaw and the forehead. So just remember to check those points as well and release that tension. And the mental tension that's correlating to that holding will also begin to release. So we've probably got another minute here. So maybe for the last minute you can become acutely aware of the movement of breath. It could just be the movement of breath in and out through the nostrils, or maybe you feel it more in the belly. Maybe in this forward fold you can feel the movement of breath through the back of the body. So wherever it is most available or most obvious for you, focus your awareness on that part of the body. Be aware of the movement of breath. And for the last 5 breaths, feel free to actively deepen and lengthen the breath. Filling the lungs from the bottom lobes at the belly all the way up to the top of the chest and collarbones. And slowly start to lift your head. Bring your torso back to an upright position, and we'll move the props over to one side. And then just finding that comfortable seat again, sitting tall.
feeling as if you're lifting the top of your head up toward the ceiling, letting the shoulders relax, creating a bit of space through the lower back. And either with the eyes closed or your gaze fixed at a single point somewhere on the floor, be aware of the effects of the practice, how you're feeling. Opening the eyes when you're ready. We're going to do a little bit of a warm-up for the shoulders before we move into the next stretch, which is going to be a much deeper stretch through the front of the shoulder. So we'll just do some basic shoulder rotations, bringing the fingertips to the shoulders and bringing the elbows pointing straight out in front. As you breathe in, lift your elbows up. Then as you breathe out, draw the elbows out and down behind you. And scoot them forward, breathing in, lifting up, breathing out, lowering back and down. Just repeat that a couple more times in this direction as you move the shoulders back and down. Really draw the elbows toward the floor, pull the shoulders down. As you squeeze the shoulder blades together behind you. And then we'll go back the opposite way, so elbows move up and back, forward and down. And you might even be breathing in synchronicity with this movement. Taking the breath in as you lift the elbows up and breathing out as they come forward and down. A couple more this way. Okay, so from here, getting into this shoulder stretch, bring both of your legs to one side. And we're going to stack the knees on top of each other. If you need to, you can place a cushion between the knees. You might also need a support for your head, so just have something handy just in case. Then rotate and twist your torso away from the legs. So my legs are out to the right and I'm twisting to the left. Then I'm going to walk my hands out, bring my chest to the floor. I'm going to take my left arm and extend it out behind me, turn my head to the right. So I'm resting on my left cheek. And right hand, just wherever it's comfortable, you can place it on your right hip, or you can bring the hand to the floor if you need to, lengthen it out in front of your face. Adjust your legs as you need to be comfortable here. If you find that this is too intense through the front of your shoulder or anywhere in your shoulder, then just bring your chest closer to the floor. The closer your shoulders are to stacking, so the more you pull your right shoulder back, the deeper the stretch is going to be. So please take care of your shoulders. Make sure that the rest of the body feels supported, and do what you need to create that.
Scanning awareness through the body, relaxing and releasing tension. And bringing your attention to your breath. Another minute or so left on this side. Just know that if you do ever feel the need to come out of a stretch before I actually instruct to do so, that's perfectly fine. I'm not the real teacher here. Like, it's up to you to listen to your own body, and that's the real teacher for each of us individually, is our own body. So making sure that you listen to the signals from your body. Last few breaths, option to make each breath a little more conscious, a little more deep. Start to bring your right shoulder closer to the floor, so rolling your chest down, pressing into your right hand. Start to press yourself up, and then you come back to a seated position. If you feel the need to rotate through that shoulder a few more times in each direction, you're welcome to do that. If there's any other kind of movement here that would feel good for you, you're also welcome to do that. So a couple of breaths at center before we move to the same stretch on the opposite side. So as you're sitting here, because we've just done one side and yet to do the other side, you might be noticing the difference between right and left sides. Maybe noticing more fluid, more blood, more energy being able to circulate through that arm. And then coming to the same stretch on the other side. So this time I'll be taking my legs to the left, twisting my torso to the right, walking my hands out, bringing my chest down, extending right arm and turning to rest on the right side of my face. When we come into positions, we're working one or paying attention to one half of the body, so the right side or the left side. It can be a really good opportunity to notice differences between the two sides of the body. So typically we'll have one side that's a little bit tighter one side that's a little bit stronger. And so these things may become more apparent when you bring your awareness into the sensations and the experience. Start to let go of any unnecessary holding through the body. If you're able to, you can use props to support any muscles that are holding and engaging. And some of the muscles that are holding are just doing it out of habituation. So when we get used to certain stresses and used to certain expression physically, they become habitual, they become unconscious. So one of the great things about a yoga practice is that we become much more conscious of our habit patterns, and we can start to undo them, whether they're mental or physical or emotional. Awareness becomes our superpower. And now just aware of the breath. And perhaps just waiting to see which thought arises in your mind next, or which thought will be the one to pull your mind away from this moment. So thoughts will continue to move through the mind even if our mind is present. The point where we become distracted, or we lose our awareness and we lose our presence, is when we engage with the thoughts that are moving through the mind, when we start to actively think and become involved with the thoughts. So there is this misconception that in meditation and in a yoga practice or a mindfulness practice that we have to find this state of no thought and no thinking. But really it's just about maintaining an awareness no matter what is happening moment to moment, whether that's noticing an awareness of your thoughts, noticing a feeling of agitation, or noticing the space between the thoughts. It's the awareness that counts. last few breaths on the side. And slowly bringing yourself up, pressing into your left hand as you drop your left shoulder toward the floor, turning the head toward the floor and grounding the palm of the right hand, and then walking the hands in, coming back to seated, an option to move through some rotation or any kind of movement through the shoulder, through the chest. It would support the relaxation of those muscles. And then we just get still, get curious and notice. We're showing a lot of love and attention to our shoulders today. So this next one, you can use a block or a bolster or maybe stacking a couple of cushions. You just want to have a little bit of height. Another thing that you could do to get some height is get a few books and place it underneath your cushion or your blanket or whatever you have. So we're going to take a kind of modified child's pose where the arms are going to be or elbows are going to be supported and lifted up off the floor, and it's going to allow some more space for our chest to drop, and we'll get into the shoulders as well as the backs of the arms. So I would suggest taking child's pose with the knees wide, the big toes touching or as close as possible. Then walk your torso, your hands forward to the floor and line up whatever support you're using so that your elbows and just the backs of the elbows can rest and the head can move through toward the floor. And then bringing the palms of the hands together. And if it's comfortable, or it feels okay, slowly bringing the thumb knuckles, the thumbs, to the back of the neck. And if you're finding child's pose uncomfortable, there's a few modifications that you can make, placing some more support under the knees or between the feet and the floor, or maybe some support between your heels and your buttocks. So we won't be holding this one as long just because it's a little bit more active, it's a little bit more intense. You can experiment with the width of your elbows from each other, the distance of your elbows from each other. And then just try to invite in as much softness and ease into this position. So really we're looking to let go of as much resistance as we can. And this resistance can present physically by the muscles resisting and holding against a position. But it can also be mental resistance, so in the form of thoughts. So noticing any kind of negative thoughts around the practice or around a certain position, and realizing that these are just another form of resistance. Another really common form of resistance that can crop up in a yoga practice or a meditation practice, anytime you're having to hold a certain position for an extended period of time, is a felt sense of agitation in the body. a desire to change your position that's not related to any real physical discomfort, but just more of a sense of agitation. So if you can just bring your awareness to that, whatever it is, just be aware of it as opposed to reacting to it or giving in to it. We strengthen our position in the seat of the witness. We can just be aware, we can just observe, become less reactive. Last few breaths here. And first releasing the hands down, pressing into the elbows to lift the head. And you can bring the hands to the floor, walk yourself in. And then we'll just transition onto bottom. I'm going to make our way down onto the floor. The feet can be on the floor if you like, or you can extend your legs straight. Resting the backs of the shoulders on the floor. Option to support the back of the head if you need to. We'll move into a twist here, so bring the feet to touch, the thighs and the knees to touch. Then we'll lift the knees up off the floor and drop them over to the left. Then followed by rolling your whole body over to the left. So your right shoulder stacks on top of your left. Your right hip is stacked on top of your left as well. Palms of the hands touch briefly for a moment, and then breathing in, we'll lift that right arm back up and take it all the way over onto the floor behind you. Now, if your arm doesn't comfortably come to the floor, then placing something underneath your arm, underneath your hand. So in this case, I'm going to use a blanket and fold it up so it's the right height. You're going to start from that side position, lying on your side so that you can square up the hips, bringing the right arm over to rest either on the floor or on a prop. Another optional way to prop here is to place a cushion between the knees and thighs, or maybe underneath that left leg. You can have your head in a neutral position, or you can turn your gaze also to the right. And we'll bring that twist up into the neck as well. Feel where your body is resting on the floor. Get heavy. Release your weight down. Be aware of your breath. Just 10 more breaths.
palms of the hands down. Lift your knees back up to center, soles of the feet on the floor, and bringing your lower back in contact with the floor as well. If you had some support on your right side, you're welcome to change that and bring it over to the left just in case. And then we're rolling all the way over to the right side, so bringing the knees across to the right in a kind of fetal position, stacking your left shoulder on top of your right shoulder. And then as you breathe in, lifting the left arm up and bringing that all the way down to the floor behind you, so the chest opens up toward the ceiling. Propping up that left arm as needed. An option to place some support between your knees or underneath your right leg this time. Feeling the shape of your body, the sensations in the body. Sensations could be related to the shape, related to the contact of the floor. You might be aware of other sensations unrelated to the practice. It doesn't really matter what the sensations are, it's the awareness and the understanding that the sensations are a sign of change. And sensations are ultimately impermanent, so they change, they arise and pass, just like everything else in reality, always changing, always in a constant state of flux and flow. So there's really no point to build up any resistance to any sensation that we experience, or crave any kind of sensation that we're not experiencing, because these are all so impermanent. Ten more breaths. And turning the palms of the hands down, rolling onto the back. And if you'd like to, you can hug the knees in, take a little rock from side to side across the lower back. Or if there's any last little movements you feel like doing before we come into our final resting pose, you're welcome to do those now. Otherwise, just preparing yourself for Shavasana, also known as corpse pose. So it's to bring that ultimate stillness to the body. So I'm placing a bolster at the backs of my knees, which I find really comfortable and supportive. You're also welcome to place a small support at the back of the head. If lying on your back isn't comfortable, it doesn't feel safe for you, you're welcome to take a different position, maybe lying on your side. Maybe you feel more comfortable seated. So just making sure that whichever position you're choosing, it's really easy for you and for your body to let go. So in Shavasana, the whole body is supported by the floor or by the earth. We can let go of the weight. We can yield to gravity. We can bring that same quality, that same volition to the mind space. Allowing the mind to become a little more spacious and calm and quiet. Letting go of any holding that we have mentally. Just checking in with the muscles of the face and softening around the eyes, releasing through the jaw, even the throat and the forehead. Everything's soft. And bring your attention now to the weight of the body. Feel the heaviness of the limbs, the head, and the torso. Feel the whole body weighted to the floor. And just for the next couple of minutes, complete rest, physically, mentally, not chasing ideas or thoughts or plans. Allowing thoughts to arise and pass without any clinging or holding, chasing. Sitting back in the seat of the witness. Resting as the objective observer of your moment-to-moment experience. And become aware of your breath. Aware that you're breathing. And without moving yet, without opening the eyes, just become more aware of your environment. Picking up on sounds. All the different sounds outside the room that you're in. Aware of any smell or aroma. Feeling your physical body in contact with the floor, the points of contact. Take all of your attention into the palms of the hands, extending out into the tips of the fingers. And start to bring some small movements into the fingers. Squeeze the hands into a fist and then extend, stretch the fingers and the palms. And repeat that a couple more times. Squeezing and extending. And then stretching through the toes. Pointing the toes. If you'd like, you can extend the arms over the head and come into a full body stretch. And then just in your own way, making your way out of relaxation, out of Shavasana, taking any movements that would feel good for you, useful for you to come back into the rest of your day. Take as much time as you need. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're feeling rested and restored.